Okay, guys, welcome to my channel, and here I am to read to you guys the very last chapter in the book we've been going through, Incredible Answers to Prayer by Roger J. Morneau. And we are on the last chapter, chapter 9. It is a pretty short chapter, so glad we have been able to get through this book. I'm so happy for the people that have been listening and partaking of this book. I pray it blesses each one of you, and I pray that you keep these stories that Roger tells through his book in your heart, and remember to pray the way our brother Roger prayed. Very powerful, very, very motivational, very inspirational book. So let me read chapter 9. And I will begin. So this one's called Every Problem, a Call to Prayer. As Division Sales Manager of the Northeast Division, covering a geographical area of 8 states, I spent most of my life visiting telephone directory canvases in progress. Looking over several weekly sales reports, I decided to visit our Yellow Pages salespeople working on a major directory in Pennsylvania. One man's sales results in particular had caught my attention. Previously a top achiever, he is now experiencing a substantial loss of revenue. I concluded that Charles had a problem that interfered with his work. Conversing with him, I found that his ex-wife, who had custody of their 2 children, was making it difficult for him to see their children. In addition, his ex-mother-in-law was doing everything possible to turn the children against him, which just broke his heart. He admitted that he had a hard time keeping his mind on work, and that if things didn't improve soon, he would have to quit his job. I asked for the mother-in-law's name so that I could pray for her. He was a bit surprised by my request, but gave it after commenting that I doubt that prayers will help, seeing that my parents have been praying for the old witch from the day I married her daughter. In fact, they even had a couple of masses celebrated so that she would not break up our home, and that didn't help. To make a long story short, I placed the names of his ex-wife, his ex-mother-in-law, and the kids on my prayer list, along with that of Charles. And every morning, with my Bible open at the 27th chapter of Matthew, I interceded in their behalf, and above all, I prayed that the Spirit of God would help Charles carry his burdens without falling apart. It was company procedure that all the Yellow Pages representatives would phone the division office in Virginia on Friday between 1 and 3 in the afternoon to report their figures for the week completed. They stated the amount of advertising dollars handled, the decrease of loss, the net figure, and any changes in number of advertisers. As I traveled home on Friday, I would stop after 3 and phone the office to get the sales results of the men that needed my close attention. It was extremely encouraging and at the same time a blessing to my Christian experience to get Charles's figures, to see how the Spirit of God was blessing, guiding, directing, and encouraging him as those sales results improved from week to week. Sometime later, I heard all about it from the man himself. With a joy born of heaven, he told how things were changing for the better. He said a couple of times, "Your prayers have real power. They really work for people." While company policies prevented me from talking religion with my people, I was able to live my religious convictions, and I thank God for that. I was surprised to hear one of their comments about living my religion. Because of a health problem, a rep's doctor told him that he had to move to a warm climate. Before leaving for California, he came to my wife and me. To my great surprise, he told Hilda in my presence about the high regard my associates had for me. One fellow stated that the day he begins going to church again, he will go to Roger's church. He will become an SDA and belong to the church with that power. A liquor problem solved. George was a good worker, but on weekends he usually rewarded himself for a good job well done by drinking. A single man, he lived in Boston, but one weekend he had stayed in a New England city where he was working on the telephone directory. One Friday evening, he drank too much and somehow landed in jail. He called the manager of the telephone company, who bailed him out. The next morning, after having sobered up, he figured that he should not delay in trying to save his job. He thought of calling me, but assumed that I, being a Seventh-day Adventist and a religious person, would likely fire him on the spot. Instead, he called the division office in Virginia with the hope that he might be able to talk to my boss, whom he presumed would be more compassionate since the man was a social drinker. My superior told George that I made those kind of decisions and that I would be at the telephone office on Monday to discuss the matter with him. On Sunday evening, my boss phoned me at home, told me about the problem, suggested that on Monday I call a meeting of our people together, the people working in the directory, and, in the presence of everyone, fire the man. Having prayed about the matter, I decided against such a move and talked to George in private. As I traveled to the office, I prayed for wisdom to handle the situation with tact. In fact, I felt that maybe I should keep him as an employee and use his problem for a prayer experience. I believed that the Spirit of God would give the man victory over his drinking by interceding for him. That is, if the Spirit of God would first cause him to plead with sincerity for his job. Then I thought, George is too proud a man to humble himself to point of pleading for his job. He'll turn in the company materials and quit before he does that. Hold on a second. I gotta deal with my dog. However, I found that the man highly distressed over his problem. As I listened to his request for compassion, I realized that he was fighting a real battle against liquor. Quotation from The Desire of Ages came to mind. Earnest, persevering supplication to God in faith can alone avail to bring men the Holy Spirit aid in the battle against principalities and powers, the rulers of the darkness of this world, the wicked spirits in high places, page 431. It was the tears in his eyes that he finally said, "Please give me another chance, please." "George," I replied, "another chance I am giving you. But seeing that I'm sticking my neck out for you, I'm going to help you in giving up this liquor by praying that God will bless your life and give you victory over your drinking." Thanking me, he said, "However, I don't think that prayers will help me. My mother has been praying for 15 years over my problem. She has recited the rosary, paid to have masses celebrated so that I would get some victory over this problem, but it does not help." "Well, George, I believe in miracles, so let's see what will happen." That's exactly what did take place. A miracle brought about God's Holy Spirit. A few months later, he told me how delighted he was that he had given up drinking. He had also lost all sense of pleasure from his drinking. I wish to again make a very clear point. While the Holy Spirit doesn't force a person's will, he can do a lot to change a person's course of action in answering to persevering supplications to God in faith. Putting on the brakes. After attending a manager's meeting at the home office in Kansas City, I returned to the Northeast Division with a new objective in mind: to reduce the high turnover of Yellow Pages advertising salespeople in our division. At the airport, as we waited for my flight to take off, I conversed with 2 other division sales managers about the concept. They felt that for the vice president of sales to attempt such a thing was ridiculous. It would mean making all our people top producers, they said, and that couldn't be done. Many reps had problems at home that forced them to quit their work. Others, though well-intentioned and hard workers, just didn't have what it took to be successful. So there was only one thing to do, they argued: keep putting new people through the training school. Costly though that it might be, there was no other way. As for myself, I already knew that with the Holy Spirit blessing my people and their advertising customers, remarkable improvements could be made. Charles's experience, along with George's, had already proved that. Some time went by, and on Thursday evening, my boss called me from Kansas. I had been at the Holiday Inn in Lowell, Massachusetts, for 3 days, interviewing sales applicants referred to us by the Snelling and Snelling Employment Agency. "How many men will you have in next month's training class in Kansas City?" he immediately asked. "As things now stand," I replied, there will be no one attending." After a long pause, he inquired, "Aren't you going to replace the 3 fellows that are trailing at the back of the sales force? The new fellows you and I talked about last week." At the time of our conversation, I was leaning in that direction, but today I'm thinking differently. Boss, please excuse the analogy, but I have come to the conclusion that this business of letting people go after they have been with us for 5 months simply because they have not produced great results is a bit ridiculous. It's like acquiring thoroughbreds, casting them aside if they don't win a major race in the first year, and then turning around buying more of the same. Believe me, sir, none of the people I have been talking to this week have impressed me as being better than the fellows we have now. If it's okay with you, I would like to keep the 3, spend some more time with them in the field, and try to make our present investments pay off. I'm delighted to hear you talk that way. You know that I am progress-minded. If you recall, at our last managers meeting, the vice president of sales stated that it cost our company about $5,000 to have a man in school for a month and in the field for 5 months. What I would like to do, if it meets with your approval, is to try saving some of that $5,000. What do you say? I don't understand exactly how you're going to make top producers out of these 3, but I sure would like to see you try. I am with you 100%, but I must tell you that if you proceed that way, you are going to step on the toes of the national sales manager, and you may make yourself an enemy. He has established a top-notch training school on the premise that a lot of the high-caliber people going through its doors are needed to obtain a large percentage of the top producers. I can't see why he would be unhappy with the vice president of sales encouraging us to try reducing the high turnover. He shouldn't, but he will if you are successful, because you will have started a trend that will jeopardize the future of his school. I appreciate your telling me about this, I said, but I will not let it change my plans. Now we have another problem. He is expecting to have 35 men in the coming class. I have already notified him of our plans that have the 3 recruits attending, but tomorrow morning I will tell him of your decision. Prepare yourself for a telephone call from Roy before the day is over. I had placed my plans before the Lord and felt impressed that I was going in the right direction and determined to not let one change my mind, but you can rest assured that I spent a lot of time praying for those fellows. The next 3 weeks I spent with them in the field, 1 week for each man. I went with them on their business calls, and to pleasantly surprise them, during the first 2 days I handled all calls myself. I placed them into such a relaxed state of mind that they found the experience a real pleasure. We chatted about a great many things, enabling me to learn much about their homes, the members of their families, etc. The men felt that they had benefited highly from the experience, which served to encourage them and produced good sales results. I believe that the Spirit of God had led me in this direction so that I could have the privilege of bringing the rich blessings of God into their homes through my intercessory prayers. My prayer list grew longer and longer as I got to know my people better, and the time came when I didn't turn the radio on in my car for the news, but spent all of my traveling time interceding in prayer for someone. I should add that of the 5 divisions of the Continental Telephone, the Northeast Division became known as the division with the lowest turnover of Yellow Page representatives in the entire nation. My boss often told the higher-ups that I was the man that had the power to put the brakes on and bring the turnover of our sales force in the Northeast Division to a solid stop. While he gave me recognition, he knew that the power came from above. I made doubly sure that he understood that. At that time, I was made district sales manager. The Northeast Division was the least productive of all the divisions, but because of the blessings of God, in a few short years, we reached the top. In 1977, my boss and I were awarded the Master Circle Award for our division's coming in first place for that year, excelling in all the phases of a company's operations. From then on, the time that I left the company in 1981, our division had the lowest turnover of salespeople and stood at the top in all other company objectives except for net increase to advertisers. The Pacific Division, because of phenomenal prosperity of the state of California, held that honor. Afterward, as I have shared with you in this book, God has answered many of my prayers for others, many more he could not. Praying for others has been the special calling and spiritual gift he has given me in his service. God works differently in each person's life. However, most of the time he answers our prayers in less spectacular ways than those I have recorded here. but he awaits for the prayers of all of his children. He longs that each one of us will pray for those about us. May you, my readers, take some of the principles that I have found in my own experience, and with the power of the Holy Spirit, use them to know the God-given joy of interceding in prayer for others. Okay, guys, that is the end of the book. And like I said, I pray that whoever has been listening is truly blessed by this reading. It certainly has blessed me, like I stated, and I do plan on continuing on and using his stories that he shared as inspiration in my own prayer closet as I intercede for friends and family and whoever God brings across to my path to pray for. So I pray for you guys, and I thank you for listening, taking time out of your day or night to listen to little old me on my little old channel. So God bless you guys, and I do have plans to delve into another book soon with you guys. I'm got some plans, that I've have some stuff I want to do in the new year. So, I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas, whoever out there celebrates Christmas, and I am hoping and praying for, a wonderful new year where we can first and foremost put the Lord first in our lives, and praying that his will be done in each one of our lives as we go into 2024. So I will be back with another, reading of another book. I'm honestly just, my channel's kind of turning into a audio book channel, but that's just kind of what I've been inspired to do. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with my channel. I mean, things may change. I do plan on sharing some stuff, like I said, some different things coming soon other than just reading. So I hope you guys stay tuned, and I hope that you guys will join me in my future journey on this channel. So God bless you all. Till next time. Remember, guys, no matter what's happening in this crazy world, in our own lives, the enemy's throwing stuff at us left and right, but God. And with Jesus, there is always a reason to smile. God bless.